All right. Sometimes the best conversations are the ones that you don't get to hear. One of these days, whenever we get bigger, we're going to do this like live thing, the pre-roll, where people that are live subscribers can come on and listen to the first 15 minutes where we're just bullshitting around, because that's always some of the best stuff. Maybe not for public consumption, but it's always the best stuff. But we were talking about online dating, which we're going to get to here in a little bit. But James, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. Our first return guest.
Thanks for having me back again, through technical difficulties and everything.
I know, man. He's rocking a 5-year-old laptop, and it's a PC laptop, so everybody knows that shit. It's on its deathbed. It is doing the death spiral.
Why it's even still running at all.
Well, that's good. At least it's running. I mean, it saves some cash.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's probably for 5 years, you've probably got enough China and Russia malware and spyware. Friggin' NSA could examine that thing at this point and probably have a field day.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. That's what I was going to talk about when we first got on. What about this malware freaking attack in Europe? How insane is that? Did you all hear about how it was slowed down?
Some guy signed up for a web domain.
Yeah, this dude, 22-year-old expert on this malware stuff, works at a security firm somewhere in Britain, who won't show his face, won't say his name. He's done a couple interviews, but he's like, tries to stay dark. And what he did, somebody sent him a copy of the code, and he goes through that code. And, there's people all over the world trying to stop this thing. So he goes through this code, and he finds this little thing that it's trying to find a web domain that doesn't exist. And that thing's going to keep spinning around until that web domain gets found. So he makes the web domain, puts it up live, shoots and something to make that malware find it, and then it all goes to that. And it's like, boom, just kind of slows down almost to a stop.
Huh. What slows down to a stop? The malware?
Yeah, the malware. Because the code says that malware is going to keep going to all these different computers until it finds the host domain that it's trying to find.
Oh, so he just basically redirects it. He takes it off the trail.
He spent $10, created a web domain, and as soon as he did, that malware found it and slowed down. I don't know if it stopped completely, but it slowed down. How crazy is that shit?
Well, and the thing is, they're not even really, all they're looking for is money. That's their number one, because the data really is pretty useless. I mean, is it private data? Yeah, it was medical information. I think a lot of it, if I remember right. Yeah. But what's the use of that? I mean, there's no financial gain you can do besides selling it.
It's just the fact locking up the computer, so the user basically has to pay $300 to open up. I mean, it's basically just a kidnapping of your computer until you sign up for Bitcoin, get your Bitcoins, and then send it to them where it's untraceable.
Yeah. Or, you're afraid to go, oh God, I had those genital warts in, 1976 and my wife doesn't know about it, or something. That could be the medical record thing when you think about it. But they would have to search through all that to find the data.
Well, just think how much data they would have to sift through. I mean, that would be insane.
It's worthless. That's what I mean for them, that you would have to have all these algorithms and siphoning programs and peelers and figuring out what to get. And these guys aren't that sophisticated. They're just getting a data dump, and they're going, pay me money. Your name's on it. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, they did the analytics on it too. They were trying to figure out what country it came from. And it's like, it was all these different languages, German, Finnish, Russian, so all this different language. And then they read them all. So the linguist went in, read all the instructions, and in Russian, it was perfect. English, it had a couple miswords, so they narrowed it down that it had to be Russian. I think it's kind of neat how they investigated that and kind of got there.
Oh, the Russians are the best. Did you guys get, I get these from Apple. I mean, supposedly Apple, all the time saying that my account, there is an issue and I must call them because it's suspended, but it goes to a wrong email. Oh, yeah. It goes to the email that I don't use for Apple, first of all. But what they've gotten good at is the domain was correct this time. A lot of the times if you go check and you hit the email address to see what it is, it's usually some goofy, email, some Hotmail account or something. Yeah. I went in there. It was apple.com/support. I went, holy shit, they're getting good. But the giveaway was it didn't look right. And it was a non-English speaker who wrote the copy because, you usually read it and it wasn't correct. It wasn't proper English. It was screwed up and you go, oh, but it was good. It was one of the better ones I've seen far as tricky. And it made me do the second, reach oh, maybe, oh, wait, that's the wrong address. That's not the address I have for Apple. It almost got me a little bit. I almost clicked on the link because I went, oh, shit, what'd I do? That would have been a nightmare.
Yeah. Man. So anyway, let's try to find a subject here. We brought James on because Gary and I were talking the other day. He just got back to Washington and everything, and he went and decided he was going to get rid of all his shit, take it to the pawn shop and trade it in for a gun. So I was like, so we got to talking about guns, and that's something I really hadn't talked about in a long time. So we're like, hey, let's do an episode on guns. And Gary's like, hey, man, I'll get James. James is somebody that is very knowledgeable, so we wanted to bring him on. So let's talk about what transpired to get this new gun, this new Springfield that you got.
I didn't get a Springfield. I actually got a different gun. I was looking for a 1911. I've never had a 1911. I've shot them plenty, just never had one. I didn't like the way they felt. They're usually, a lot of them are big. They're clunky. They're incredibly accurate. I just didn't like the size and weight of a lot of them. But I went in there and I've gotten disillusioned with Craigslist for certain things. It was tools and some random stuff. And it was just basically meth bait is all I was going to get. It was, if I put that on Craigslist, I was going to get hounded by every meth head within 50, round miles trying to buy it and sell it for $5 extra so he can get a rock. And that's what sucks about Craigslist today is you got to be real careful what you put on there because it's a waste of time. I'm not a big pawn shop guy, but I found a good pawn shop in Spokane that I really like. They treat me fair every single time. I've only been there 3 times, but they always treat me right. So I went, you know what? I had another gun that I didn't really like. It was nothing special. So I went, I'm going to take that in because they have a gun shop and some other stuff. A couple miter saws that were all beat to shit and some other stuff. Said, hey, what will you give me? And I went in there and looked, and I was looking at the Springfield subcompact 1911. It's pretty popular right now. It's a really neat gun. I like the size of it. I think it's a 4 1/4 barrel, which is what I ended up getting. It may have been a 4. But the guy talked to me and he's all, hey, we were going through all of them. And, I was looking at the Kimbers and I was dreaming and getting into the $1,200, $2,000. I'm all, nah, hold on. And he goes, hey, check this Ruger out. And I went, a Ruger 1911? Really? And I went, I've owned Rugers, but I've never heard of a Ruger 1911. And so he brings it out. It's called the Commander, and there's the Commander lightweight. So the Commander's the typical steel frame, 5-inch barrel. The lightweight is the 4 1/4-inch barrel with an aluminum slide. I've never owned a alloy slide gun. It's always been, just straight, typical, metal gun, steel gun. And, except for Glocks, of course. But,
yeah.
And I got it out and all of them I tested, man. I went, holy cow, this thing is balanced perfectly. This is the best feeling 1911 I've ever actually had in my hands. So we started talking back and forth, and, I'm in a pawn shop. So I'm thinking, this guy's trying to upsell me, or it's their biggest profit gun, but it wasn't. It's the cheapest 1911 that I'd looked at. So I went, okay, I went, all right, man, let's do it. I'll try it out. And so I got it and I took it home, shot it, and I went on the internet and looked because I wanted bad idea with Gary, didn't do my research before. I should have went home or got on my phone, did my research before, but I know guns well enough. It was one of those, I went, come on, it's a Ruger. It can't be that bad. If it is, I'm sure they'll take it back. And phenomenal gun. It is now my favorite gun. And it shoots incredibly well. It's balanced really well. It was stated as the best sub 2019 11 on the market period. Sub $2,000. They say it's the best one by far. And I was like, they're right. And it was 700 and change.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it came with 2 magazines. 2 stainless steel magazines at that. 7 round plus 1 in the chamber. So, but you could get the high capacities 8. So what's the point?
It's a good looking gun too.
No, it's a really cool gun. That's what I mean. I put about 100 rounds through it. That's it. Not a whole lot. But yeah,
jams to the 100 rounds.
I had 1 jam, and it's because I'm using just ranged ammo.
Yeah.
So it caught on the corner of the casing. So it caught twice. So I just took it out, got my knife out, hammered it down, and boom, went right back in. And I was able to get it through. But 1 jam, that was it. And it was the round.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, it was the round. It wasn't the gun. So yeah, highly recommend it, guys. It's like I said, it's the Ruger. It's made in the USA. Commander lightweight and the Commander. Phenomenal gun.
Is it the standard 45 caliber?
Yeah.
The 1911?
Yeah, 45 ACP.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going for. I have a 40 that I use, that I carry on the property a lot. The problem is with the 45, it doesn't have the velocity. If you get into a big animal, if you're a moose or bear and you shoot in the head, there's a good chance it might bounce off. But it's a 45. I mean, you're still.
What else you gonna carry?
Well, exactly. Well, the gun is a 357 revolver, is what you carry for big game. That's your go-to gun. I just don't like wheel guns anymore, and I'm just not a big fan of 357s. I never have been. I don't know why. I just
don't like the Python.
No, well, yeah, that's pretty cool. Or the Desert Eagle. I will get one of those eventually.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. I just never been a 357 fan. I carried it on the job. I didn't like it. It's just heavy. With it fully loaded, it's just a really heavy gun. Usually, I had the SIG, and it had the tapered round. And then you guys ever shot the 357 tapered?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's a goofy round. It's a normal 357, and then it tapers at the end, and it's just weird. It's a weird round. I don't know why. But yeah, I've had a 350. I think I had a 357 revolver too. I had for years, and I got rid of that a long time ago.
What is it that Rick Grimes carries on The Walking Dead?
That's probably, that looks like
is that a 45?
He was a cop, so I would guess it's a 45.
When I watched the show, I think it was a 45 revolver.
Yeah, because it's too big
it's a
for
massive
38.
barrel.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah,
I mean, it looks like Clint Eastwood style from all those movies back in the day.
Or it could be no, I would say maybe a 44 Magnum.
To carry.
Yeah, could be. But 44 Magnums has a shorter barrel than what that one has.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's a full blown either 45 or a 357. It's
a loopy gun. I mean,
which means it could be nothing.
Yeah,
it says
exactly.
An old-fashioned Colt Python.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
nice. Yeah, those are wheel guns are tried and true. That's what everyone learns on. That's probably a good thing to start with, huh, James, is what you start with. What weapon, if you've never, and I'm sure you guys have, I have a lot of friends who literally have never touched or shot a firearm, which is pretty weird to me, but they've never done it. They always ask me, they go, what's the first gun I should get? And I go, well, probably none right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I always say, hey, go to the range and shoot a revolver, go rent one and shoot a revolver.
Yeah. I did not grow up in the family that shot guns. So when I started getting into survival, I'm like, well, I need guns. And my first gun was actually a hunting rifle, and I don't know if starting out with a 30-06 deer rifle was the first thing I should have started out with.
Oh, man.
But, it worked. And then I bought a Smith & Wesson 40 caliber handgun. It was the Sigma 40 VE or something. Horrible gun. Just unreliable, jammed all the time. Was a bad decision. So I cannot unrecommend that enough. So But
Product review. I smell a product review.
I got a good deal on that. I sold it and then took that money to go buy my shotgun, which is a Remington 870. So that was a much better trade there.
Tried and true again. Yeah, if you're good, I would say that if you're looking for a shotgun, the Remington 870, which we shot in law enforcement, I carried it for a long time. The best, far as unbelievable gun. We went to the oh God, what did we go to? Trying to think. They replaced it with the Benelli. It was the Benelli.
Oh, step up.
No, those are expensive.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
870, much better. And I've just bought a 12 gauge, a new one. I'd had a 20 gauge, my hunting that I'd had since I was 14. I've always used it. I just used a 20 gauge. I used Magnum loads if I needed anything a little bigger. I bought the Mossberg 500.
That's a good one.
Oh, it's a classic. It's one of the most popular guns. And that's one thing I'd recommend to people too, is don't go out there and spend a fortune. I have shot cheap guns and I've shot really expensive guns. And can you notice the difference on a really expensive gun if you've shot a lot of guns? Yeah, but not enough to where it's worth it for, if you're going to be an average person going out and get a gun, probably the tried and true, I think, is a Glock. It's one of the easier, but the downside is it doesn't have a safety. You better not be an idiot with it because you will shoot yourself or someone else with it. But it's the easiest gun to learn. The downside, like I said, is it doesn't have a safety. 1911s are actually really good because there's a double safety on that. But I think a revolver is probably one of the best too, just because you can't learn bad habits with the revolver. If you have bad habits, you're never going to hit the target.
Yeah, that's, if people are trying to learn like guns for the first time, I've always said you should go take some sort of a class. Like,
definitely.
I had some buddies that ran a shooting school, and we organized a group, and they had like a beginner's handgun class that they only charged $10 a person for, and they brought a few loaner Glocks to teach people with, and for $10 for we shot for 2 hours with hands-on instruction from law enforcement and professional firearms instructors. You can't beat that, and it was basically just advertisement for their school and, giving back to our group that we had there. So you can do something like that. That's
a screaming deal right there. That ammo alone, the box of ammo alone is more than that.
Yeah. Especially now. Yeah.
It's and that's the thing. When I was growing up, the first thing I did when I turned 12 is I had to go through the hunter safety course, because you had to be, I think it's still the same, you had to be 12 years old before you could go through it. And as soon as I turned 12, went through the hunter safety course, had to learn all the firearm safety, everything. I'd had a BB gun as a kid, and I think I had my 22 well before I went through the hunter safety course. But I'm
on the phone.
That was where I had to learn everything in there. And that's a good course too, is even if you don't intend to hunt, it's a good idea just to go through the hunter safety course, because you're going to learn the gun safety. And if you ever do decide to get your hunting license, you've gone through the course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I would truly recommend, because I think it's 3 days, maybe 2 days. Can't remember how long. I was 12. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I went through mine through 4-H camp. So it was a summer camp, and every day we would go do, part of it was hunter safety.
4-H, man, I haven't heard that in a long time. That's still around though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's still big.
Is it still big?
My girls are actually going to 4-H camp for the first time this summer. So yeah, it's still around.
Yeah. My sister was in 4-H. I remember all that. She was in 4-H and we were in Cub Scouts and all that. Now boys could be in 4-H.
Yeah. Here they could. I don't know if I've never heard. I was never part of 4-H, but a friend of mine was, and I just kind of tagged along to camp with him. So that's what I always did. I wasn't there to do anything, but the girls were on one side of the camp and we were on the other side, and I snuck out every night. So
that's really truly effective. We all know that, that makes it. Yeah. Nothing bad's going to happen there.
not at all. But that's how basically, when I was young and my first gun was a 410. So that's what my dad had it, and I rabbit hunt and squirrel hunt. I squirrel hunted with 22 rifle, which probably wasn't safe shooting up in trees with a 22 rifle, but that's what I started with. But that was all, I did that before 4-H camp, before I ever got a hunter safety course. I remember the first time I shot the 410, I had it about 3 inches off my shoulder when I pulled the trigger, and had a bruise on there for about a month. But that's why I think it's important to go to something like that. So somebody, not just your buddies, telling you, hey, put this up on your shoulder and shoot it.
Or start with a 30-06 on James. I bet that was a painful first experience, because even today I get about 10 rounds through my 30-06 and I'm done. I'm like, I don't want to shoot this anymore. I got a headache. My shoulder hurts. It's a vicious, that's a vicious kicking rifle. I mean, and I bet there's some big hunters going, what a pussy. And I'm like, 30-06 has a little kick to it.
It depends on the gun too. Like the hunting rifle that I had, it had a kick. Like, you don't want to shoot it all day. But for a couple years, I owned an M1 Garand from World War II. That thing beat the shit out of you. Like, it was a fun gun, but man, it would just kick you around. So.
We learned on those in the Navy. Chambers, when I was in Miramar, we went out to the range and we were shooting old M1s. Jeez, I kid you not.
That's insane.
And we're having to try and qualify standing with those things. Those things weigh like 100 pounds.
They do.
They're so heavy. We had females with us, and they were shooting literally 15 feet in front of them in the dirt, and because they were just so heavy. I mean, weighed a ton. And the guys weren't doing any better. I mean, we were all struggling with those things. And then it kicks like a mule on top of it. Yeah, not a fun gun.
Can you imagine being in wartime and that's what you're relying on?
Well, yeah, because you knew if you ran out of ammo, you just beat the crap out of someone with it.
That's true. It's probably heavy as hell too, isn't it?
Oh, it's heavy. I mean, it's not even explainable heavy. It's a heavy gun.
Yeah, and then loading it is a pain in the ass with sticking the clips, not magazines, the clips down in there, and if you mess up, you just smashed your thumb. So imagine doing all that while Nazis are shooting at you.
Was it top loaded?
Yeah. It was an 8-round clip that you jam in there, and then when you shoot all the rounds, it pops it up in the air. So it's neat.
Yeah, and it makes that ting.
Yeah.
It's fun to shoot in a way for nostalgia reasons, but you don't want to just do it. Yeah, you don't want to learn on that. Probably, rifle wise, probably a 22 is a good idea. Get out there. That's what I learned on as a kid. The first rifle I had was a 22. And then when I went bird hunting, it was a 410, and it was a single shot. And then I went to the 20 gauge breakaway single shot. And then I went to the 12 gauge. Double barrel 12 gauge with one barrel blown out.
Oh my God.
That's when I would when I first went dove hunting, or we go quail hunting, I think, because the 20 gauge wasn't doing it. They're just too quick, and it was windy where I lived. So a quail would get up in the wind and take off. It was gone. I mean, you couldn't even come close to it. So I'll go with the 12 gauge. And my stepdad gives it to me, goes, here, one barrel was like this big around at the very end because it had blown up. So I could only use one barrel of it, and because the other one was completely blown up, and I had to remember not to shoot out that one. I'm pretty sure that's not considered safe at all. But
no, not a bit.
Different era, different time. I used that gun for probably a couple years too, until I got my own 20 gauge, until I finally got that. I still have that 20 gauge to this day. That gun, I've had it for 32 years.
Really? That's crazy.
And I still use it. I went out and got a couple dove with it last year on the property with it. Yeah. And dove hunting in the forest, much different than where I grew up. Because I grew up in the high desert. Trying to shoot dove in the desert, you could flush them out, and they're in the sagebrush, and you could see them, and they're on the power lines. You're not supposed to shoot them off there, by the way.
Yeah.
Just FYI. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. I may have done that maybe a couple hundred times when I was a kid. But
they sit still for you right there.
Well, that was the thing. They would all line up. And I mean, as a 16-year-old kid, you're sitting there staring at them going,
I can't miss. I've got this one.
Yeah, I can't miss, and I'm getting 3 or 4 on one shot. How am I not going to shoot those? How am I, but yeah, in the forest, they get in the trees. And so they're in the pine trees and stuff, and you can't see them. And if they get on the ground, they're real hard to see too. So you have to literally shoot them out of trees, pine trees. And then they fall out, and the underbrush is so thick. I shot 3. I never found them. I couldn't even find them. And I was like, this is a different ball game. But growing up the way I did, it helped me because, you got to pay attention too when you're shooting things out of trees. I do still have people around me. I mean, I'm not completely isolated, and blowing, shooting down towards my neighbors and stuff. Even that way, you just got to, you got to use your head.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of those big rules, is always know where you're shooting. For the people that have never shot, like, no willy-nilly, like shooting like with no regard to what's behind your target or around your target.
Well, that's why I don't even like hunting with people, even people I know. I just don't like it. Because you have to Dick
Cheney somebody, or
Cheney
you.
And it's not only that, but it's for me too, because sometimes I won't know where they're at. And I actually I've been shot a couple of times, not like shot, but shot with out bird hunting. Because, you're out in the fields and no one could see you. And one of them was my stepdad shot me. I think he did that on purpose. I was probably being a dick that day. But I've been peppered multiple times. I've had friends pepper me. And that peppering means you get scattered. Like, you'll either it's bouncing off the ground and then ricocheting into you. And 7 and 8 shot, it's not going to kill you. But I got a couple embedded in my chest. And it's not fun, and it's scary because you think, holy shit, I just got shot, and you're looking around going, oh God, am I alive? Do I got my eyes? So that's why I recommend the hunter safety course. That goes all back to that full circle. Is more than likely, if you're using home protection, a lot of people use a shotgun. Well, the hunter safety course is going to walk you through all that stuff a little bit better. And if you have kids, how is the best way to put this? Because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up around guns, and there was a gun in the house and within reach pretty much all my life, and mostly loaded. I never picked it up. I never screwed around with it. I just knew better. I knew it was going to be an ass beating if I got caught. And I just respected guns. I didn't do that. But if you have small kids and you've never been around guns, lock it up. Don't leave it out. The kids it's not the same deal today. It just isn't. Did people growing up, kids accidentally throw a shot down range in the house, picking up their dad? Yeah. We had a couple friends I grew up with who blew a hole in the TV. One kid shot the TV. But we laugh about it now, but it's just kids. I just don't think they have the sense of understanding that you shoot someone, you're probably going to kill them. It's not a video game. We didn't have video games or any of that stuff, and we got beatings. You can't beat a kid today either. I mean, you got the living shit beat out of you if you got caught shooting your dad's gun or holding it or showing your friends. It was going to be a rough day and night.
Yeah. And, it's, I grew up that too. My uncle was a cop, and, little small town of 660 people. And he was the chief of police, the only police officer there, but he had guns all over the house. Every drawer you open, every junk drawer you open, you dig in there and there'd be like a little mini 22 or something in there. And we played with them, and we knew better, but we did it anyway. I mean, they would leave and we'd go to the drawer and pull it out. Hey, look, we'd wave it around like dumbasses, and obviously loaded. And, I mean, you can't, we were good kids. So you can't say, well, my kid's good, I've got a good kid. They wouldn't do that. You can't assume that your kid's going to be responsible enough not to pick up a gun whenever they see one.
It's like matches. That's the best way to put it, because every kid will go through this, especially boys, is the fire stage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but boys hit a certain age and we're just fascinated with fire. We lit everything up we could burn. At one point, I mean, we were getting cans of spray paint and lighting our action figures on fire and melting them and, lighting shit in the yard on fire for no apparent reason. I don't know what it is. You just have this fascination. Well, the second fascination is guns. Yeah. As a boy, if you see a gun as a young kid, you are just drawn to it like a magnet. And that's why, it's just, if you've never been around guns and you never owned one, just be safe, figure out a way to lock it. They have a lot of trigger locks now. Did trigger locks exist? I don't think they existed when I was growing up. They may have. I don't remember them.
I don't remember hearing about them, but I wasn't super into guns when I was a kid. But yeah. And I don't think parents are really teaching their kids respect to firearms anymore. It's like they have one hidden. They don't even talk about it. So the kids stumble and find it one day, the way that kids get in everything. And they're like, oh, it's a gun. I saw this on TV, and then it's like, then they're shooting holes in walls and shit. So
if they're lucky, they're shooting holes in walls.
Yeah. There's always the stories of like, 15-year-old shot his 12-year-old brother. And that's terrible. And I'm sure their parents never talked to them about guns. I'm sure it was like hidden, the dirty family secret. Oh, dad has a gun. Don't talk about it. And, the kids don't have that respect for them.
Well, and what's the first rule? And for me, growing up around guns and being around guns all my life and being in law enforcement, military, the first rule is every gun's loaded. Bottom line, you treat every gun as if it's loaded. That's probably the best advice I could give anyone who's thinking about or going to own their first firearm is no matter what, you always treat it as if it's loaded. And you always clear it and you double check and you make sure there's nothing in the chamber. I've seen many guys say, clear, hand it off, and literally I pop it and there's a round in the chamber. And, the rule is double check, double rack, make sure, pull it back, make sure if it's, a semi-auto, look down the chamber. If it's revolvers, dump it, spin it, make sure, check the barrel, make sure there's nothing in there. It's just, if you do that, you're never going to have an accident. You just won't. It's impossible if you double check everything, especially if making sure nothing's in the chamber. And the laser rule. So if you combine the treat every gun as it's loaded and the laser rule, which the laser rule is don't point your gun at anything you do not intend to kill. Yeah. Pretty basic, really basic. Yeah. And if you follow those two rules, you'll never have any issues with a firearm. I mean, bottom line.
And don't drink a 6-pack and clean your gun.
That's a tough one. I don't know what. No, and it is. It's pretty smart, not to go out and get hammered and decide that that's a good time for you and your, 10 buddies to get around and break the arsenal out. Bad things happen. It's just, as I've gotten older, even, to be honest with you, even when I was younger and we'd be screwing around and we'd go out and shoot, I'll be honest, teenager, we all drank. We all did. Yeah. Grew up in a little podunk town. We started drinking as soon as we could hold the can pretty much. But I just never would drink and shoot. I just wouldn't do it. It's just a bad idea. It really is.
That's every redneck hold my beer while I do this, like death story. Like, how'd he die? Well, he asked me to hold his beer and then he was stupid. Yeah.
Oh, well, and the thing is too, you just become, you're just, a lot of times too, is you'll drop the gun because your reflexes aren't as good. And that's the thing. You get drunk and your muscles start to relax. You start to have poor motor skills. And I've heard of guys, actually I've known guys who have dropped the gun on the hammer, boom, straight back up. One guy shot himself right in the ass, right through his truck. He dropped it, fell, and he was drunk. Hit underneath his truck and shot him straight through the seat. Shot him right in the ass. And he was he didn't get fired, but it was an embarrassing situation. And but again, alcohol and your gun, they don't mix. And he was lucky. He almost bled. He could have bled out if he wasn't right. If he wasn't right there and he could call 911, he was in deep shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too. You don't have to take one to the head. You know, all you got to do is have that thing come up your leg and nick a couple arteries on the way up, and you're dead. I mean, you got maybe 5 minutes and you're done.
I was going to add to your list of rules that one that I follow is never like try to catch a falling gun, because a lot of the self shootings are when you grab for it and your finger goes in the trigger guard and you pull the trigger on yourself trying to catch it. Like
1 in a million shot.
I mean, if you've got a modern pistol, none of them are going to fire when they hit the ground unless something goes in the trigger guard. Like you can throw Glocks down all day long and it'll never ever go off, unless you luckiest shot in the world, it hits a twig or something and pushes the trigger back, which is still a few pounds. But I'm not going to ever reach for one, and that it's instinct too, though. Like you got to train to not reach for it, because I instinctively grab for everything that falls.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's reflexes are a bitch, when it comes to that, because I would grab for it too as soon as I dropped it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really good point, James, especially if you're unfamiliar with weapons. I've seen people do that, shoot a gun for the first time and drop it. And they drop it just pure accident, and they go grab for it. They usually miss it because they're not used to, thank God, but you're dead on with that. And I'm trying to think if I've dropped a gun in my life. I know I have. And I think I do. I don't think I've ever reached for one. I just let it go. Yeah, it's weird. I've been around guns for so long though that it's weird. I forget about these situations because it's
ingrained.
It's ingrained. It's muscle memory, and it's a lot of stuff that I don't even think about. I just don't think about it. Like, don't look down the barrel. Duh. But for someone who's never owned a gun, when they have a jam, the first thing you'll see them do is like that. And you're like, well, and it's just instinct. It's just, you turn it around and look at it, but it's tap, rack, if you've done it enough, and I've done it thousands and thousands of times in training, but if you're a newbie to a gun and you get a jam, that's the scariest part about being around someone who hasn't handled a lot of firearms is jams. Cause that's when people get shot too, cause they don't know how to clear it. They don't know what they're doing, or they'll just put it down and you're like, whoa. And all of a sudden it slides and boom. And you're like, holy shit. But luckily most modern guns will not do that. Most. It still happens.
That's why I recommend, like, if you have a range, it's not like dicks about everything, really. When you're shooting your handgun, or any of your guns, really, especially tactical rifles, I buy some of those blanks, those little plastic blank ones, and I just mix them in there, so that when it comes to one, obviously it's not going to fire. Tap, rack, pull, and keep going, and it's good to have that trained in you, so you don't, if you're in a firefight, if you're, on the street, you don't want to just, oh, I have a jam, fuck it, and run,
Well, and a lot of people do. Well, that's how a lot of criminals get themselves in trouble, is a jam. They don't know how to unjam a gun, and thank God, most of them. But you're right. That's how we learned in the military and in law enforcement. You get that, we call them dummy rounds, and so we have to mix them in with live rounds, and we go to the range and we go live fire, and it's live practice. So when you hit that dummy round, it's not going to fire, and usually they will jam. They're going to do something goofy. Yep. And it is the best practice in the world. When you got 3 or 4 of those mixed in a magazine, it screws you all up. The first time you try and do it, you're a mess trying to figure it out. But if you do that and learn on that, and not only that, but it'll show you a stovepipe. And people on stovepipes, it's when a stovepipe is when it gets jammed in the slide and it's sticking straight up, basically sticking up, and there's another round either in behind it or in front of it that's in the chamber. It can stovepipe a couple ways, but people usually, they look at it, and the easiest, you just pull, slide, and let it drop if you can. But some get jammed in there really well. Stovepipe's one of those really tough ones, but it's dangerous. Like a stovepipe is considered one of the most dangerous far as jams because a lot of people don't know how to clear them. And they keep their finger on the trigger. They're doing goofy shit and they're pointing. And that's, again, the rule. Laser rule. Make sure whatever you're doing, keep that muzzle in a safe air, pointed in a safe direction. And that's the thing about, I won't go to firing. People go, well, why don't you just go to the range? I go, that's why I have my own range. Firing ranges, I've seen some of the stupidest shit go down in a shooting range, and they get a jam and literally they're doing this and you're like, people are ducking and, so, and I don't want to discourage shooting ranges. It's just when you go there, I've had to for qualifications and stuff over the years back when I was in law enforcement still, but I had my head on a swivel at all times in a shooting range.
I think one of the things that amazes me is how inept some police officers are with a gun.
Oh yeah.
How they don't take the time to train with their weapon and get familiarized with it. So I'm talking more local. I'm sure federal, you have more training you have to do, but local level, it seems like, I've talked to guys that hadn't shot a gun in 2 or 3 years.
Well, for us, it's mandatory. We had to qualify quarterly. So, and most local, bigger, obviously like sheriff's departments, it's usually quarterly or at least semi-annual. But you're right. If you're in a small podunk, Barney Fife town or whatever, like where I grew up, you probably don't go to the range. There is no range. So I'd imagine those guys don't qualify, but every couple years, if that, and that's dangerous. It is.
And they don't exercise either.
Oh, that's in general, man. I kid you not. And I know I've gotten in trouble because people have said I fat shamed sometimes, and I haven't. But man, we are getting fat. Holy God. I'm not being a jerk, but America, push the plate away. We are getting huge. Everywhere I go now, I'm seeing people it's hard to find someone under 200 pounds. And I'm talking 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's bad. And you're right. In law enforcement, it's sad. It's pretty bad. There's a lot of overweight, big people in law enforcement. I mean, big. I just don't get it. I don't get it in general. But yeah, it's you throw that in, haven't shot in a while. I'm overweight. It's an accident kind of waiting to happen, I guess.
I know. And I think, I've seen videos of officers that are pulling out their guns and you can tell they have no idea what they're doing, and that's a scary situation whenever, they're in a life-threatening situation and they can barely protect themselves. So,
well, it takes a lot of practice. I mean, I've been shooting guns I started probably when I was 10, I think, when I got my 22 sets, 37 years. That's a long, long time. And that's the only reason I feel comfortable. I mean, I've had tens of thousands of rounds. And that's what I tell people too. It's not going to the range and getting 100 through your gun. It's thousands and thousands of rounds and familiarity, muscle memory, and, figuring out your stance and going through drills. And because everyone just thinks, I just got to figure out how to fire it, how to point it and shoot it. And there's so much more to it, James, and you're in that world. I mean, you've got a lot of people in the, I am too. I mean, God, I'm in the same world you are. What am I talking about? But you're more in it than I am a little bit. And the survival prepper crowd, what do you see there? I mean, far as firearms and people kind of getting into it.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people that have came on board like myself without, growing up around firearms. And, it's just, they're struggling to learn, and like we've said, the best thing is to go get an education on that. So, because you can read about how to shoot a firearm and maybe it'll click a little bit, but without someone there, like, oh no, you're totally holding that wrong. You got to do it this way. Like, you'll just keep practicing with the wrong habits and you're just not going to be any good at it,
You're totally right. That's a good piece of information. One thing that does not transfer on video and books is shooting firearms. That is, you hit it on the head right there. I don't think you can learn a whole lot except for disassembly, maybe cleaning, but firing, it's repetition. It's pure repetition.
I mean, after I had shot for a few years, reading an article did give me one piece of advice, but that was not like, if I had read, how to shoot a firearm from the beginning, none of it would have clicked. But what was it? It was an article from Masab Ayud, and it was on how hard you should grip your pistol while shooting. Because before I'd moderately, I'd held it, but I wasn't like, putting a death grip on it. And he was like, for a firearm, you just want to squeeze it until your arm starts to shake when you have that like death grip on it, and then shoot. Yeah, you've got a little, like, if you're a competitive shooter, that's probably not the best for you. But he's like, if you're being attacked, and your adrenaline's rushing and you're scared and you're just freaking out, he's like, you're probably shaking anyway. I mean, honestly, you're probably shaking anyway. So just train with that. And sure enough, I went out to the range and I tried it, and my hand was shaking a little bit, but it was damn near there by the bullseye. So it worked, but I had to have that foundation built up, that the rest of the fundamentals of firearm shooting before I could apply that next level piece of information. So
all those years talking about adrenaline, and especially somebody that's picking up a gun for the first time, they're going to have a feeling they've never had before.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that adrenaline's going to be pumping just like it would if you've held one for 10 years and you get in a situation, because I mean, it's a scary thing. I haven't shot a gun, honestly, 10 years, 12 years. It's just something I just haven't been around or anything like that. And if you put a gun in front of me right now and told me to shoot it, my heart rate would shoot up to about 120. I guarantee it, because I would be so nervous about it. And it's something that you've got to do often. And if you don't, I've got a buddy of mine, his wife got her concealed carry, went and got it, got her concealed carry, put it in her purse, hadn't touched it in years. Hadn't touched the gun before that, haven't touched it since.
A lot of people do that, and that's where a lot of the accidents happen. And not only that, but they forget about it.
Yeah.
You forget that you have it. And that's kind of one of my rules is I have a concealed carry as well. And my rule is I have it on me almost at all times. It has to be on my body, because you stick it under your seat, and this has happened with many law enforcement people. Trust me, I've worked with lost their gun. And I worked with a guy, he lost his gun for 2 weeks. He didn't tell his supervisor. It was under his seat in his G-Ride, his government vehicle. It had been there the whole time. He just had forgotten about it. He'd put it there for some reason. He probably had to get out to go do something, or went to go to the bathroom, and just forgot about it. And he was like, thought he had lost it. And that's why, I would recommend that you at least qualify and go out, put a bare minimum of 100 rounds through twice a year. That's the bare minimum. And even with that, it's not enough to be proficient. Mm-hmm. Firearms are one thing where you just have to put a lot of rounds down. Those guys who are like competitive shooters and stuff, they've put like hundreds of thousands of rounds through. I mean, ridiculous amounts. I mean, those guys, they're phenomenal. And women, there's some phenomenal sharpshooters and competitive shooters. And I would never even call myself anywhere close to that. Those people, but that show you how many rounds they've probably done in the area of all the rounds I've done, somewhere 100 to 1,000 times at least more rounds than I've ever shot. So I would recommend that. And dry firing, I forgot about that. Heck, when I was even though I had a lot of us were former military, and I'd been around weapons a large part of my life in the academy, it didn't matter. We all had to dry fire. We started with revolvers. We dry fired. We learned trigger pull. I think that's real important too. Just don't go, hey, I'm going to the range and I'm going to start jacking rounds down.
So
learn. Yeah.
Tangent here. When I was a kid, I was always told never to dry fire a gun. Is that just not that's just something somebody.
I think it's more internet.
That's where I've heard it several times too. So that's not a thing.
It's one of those things, like the internet will debate on that until the internet is crumbled. Like some of the old weapons, dry firing could damage your firing pin. Most modern weapons, not really a big deal. And if you use those dummy rounds, like me and Gary were talking about, that will prevent any damage to your firing pin because it'll be hitting the plastic of those, dummy rounds. So that's, it's people are going to bitch on the internet. That's what's going to happen.
To this day, I've never heard anyone damaging or breaking their firearm dry firing it. Never. What
about dry?
You dry hump your firearm, you're going to hurt you and probably the firearm at some point. But yeah, mainly you. I wouldn't recommend dry humping your firearm. You probably will be arrested for that. Maybe. Depends. Rules are different.
Yeah, like the guy that you seen the picture this week of the naked guy dry humping the shark on the boat, right?
Huh?
No.
You got to look online, man. And it turns out, it's worth looking at. It turns out it's looks like it's Jimmy, the guy that owns the Jimmy John franchise. So he's back of this deep sea boat, and there's a shark on the ground, and he's naked on top of it, like hugging on it.
Oh God.
Yeah. And they thought it was Jim McElwain at first, Florida's head coach, which would have been even more humorous if it were me. But
that wouldn't have shocked me, though. It wouldn't have shocked me if it was a University of Miami or Florida coach or Florida State. I just probably made a bunch of enemies right there. Nah.
Anyway, but so talking about having a gun and all this safety stuff, we were starting to talk about concealed carry. Gary, have you ever had a situation when you were in federal agency where you had to pull out your gun and actually use it? Because I know a lot of cops or federal agents go their whole career and never have to take it out of their holster.
Oh yeah, I pulled it out plenty of times. I never shot it, thank God. And people go, "Oh, trust me, the last thing you want to do is shoot someone." I mean, honestly, and that's coming from, I guess, a little different attitude, and that was about respecting firearms. That I knew if I pulled that trigger, more than likely I was going to take someone's life, and I think it sunk in at an early age. I pulled it out several times, and I pointed it at people. Absolutely. Was I scared shitless? Damn right I was. And the last thing I want to do is pull that trigger. But in that situation too, that would get into the whole shoot, don't shoot scenarios, which we had a ton of training on that too. It's one of those, man. People bag on cops for, being quick at the trigger, but shit, you second guess, you're dead. You don't have a rewind. You got to make a split-second decision, and I actually pulled my gun on another federal agent.
Accidentally?
Not knowing. We were doing a high-threat protection detail through New York, and this idiot, I won't name the agency he was working for, we went by him, and he was outside his car, and he was acting really weird. And we're unmarked because, remember, we're doing all this. Everyone's in unmarked cars. There's a ton of feds or cops. Everyone's around. And he looked at us, and he kind of did a weird little deal. And I said, hey, that guy was actually looking at one of our protectees' buildings. Like he was scoping it. Like he was sitting in an alley by himself looking at a building, and we're all spinning around. So we spun around, come back on the guy, and he's in an unmarked car. He's plain clothes. He gets out, and he instantly puts his hands like he's reaching. And I came up, and I'm like, I was yelling at him, please, drop it. And it was a fucking another federal agent. And I went, dude, what are you thinking? I mean, it scared the living hell out of me because it was close. Because the guy was reaching for his ID. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was. I had no clue he was another federal agent. Not a clue. And holy cow! And that was my first year in, and everyone said, "Whoo, scary. Oh man. And I was like, I didn't know what to do, and they're all, no, you made the right decision. They go, if you would have shot the guy, they go, honestly, it would have been a legit shoot. I mean, the guy and I even told him, and he goes, God, thank you, dude. He goes, I wasn't thinking. And I went, yeah, no shit. Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's that realizing that if I pulled that trigger, I was going to take a life more than likely. And that's what I mean. It's people don't look at guns that way. They look at them on TV, 24, all these fun shows and movies, and they shoot 25 rounds and they never hit anyone. And, or they get shot 5 times and live and hits them in the shoulder. That's all bullshit, man. It just doesn't go that way. Every once in a while you'll put 10 rounds in someone who won't die, but it's very rare. Usually they get 1. And if it's in this area, they're usually dead. So it's just one of those things. You got to treat it as exactly what it is. It's a weapon, and it's a very dangerous weapon in the hands of an untrained person. And that's the best way I can put it.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the examples of it, talking about shooting to kill. Did you hear about that story? I think it was last year. This woman was in a parking lot, and this was in Minnesota, I think, somewhere in Minnesota. And some dude like shoplifted a Lowe's. And as he was going through the parking lot, going to his car, she pulled out her gun and emptied her clip in the parking lot at this guy to stop him. And then she goes to court. The judge takes away all her guns, and she like tries to get the NRA involved, and they do get involved and try to get her guns back. It was just insane, and that's just
no. Well, and that's the thing. If you have a concealed carry permit, it doesn't mean you get to just randomly shoot people committing crimes. Your life, here are the rules. I'm going to make this real basic. Your life or the lives of others have to be in jeopardy for you to use deadly force. I cannot make it any simpler than that. If they're running away from you and you have not seen a weapon and they have not shot anyone, they have not stabbed anyone, they don't have a knife, they haven't done anything, you cannot shoot them. You cannot shoot them. You will go to jail for that. And that's what I mean. People kind of, again, it's that use your head. With my concealed carry permit, I have never pulled my gun out, ever. And I don't want to. I don't want to, period. It's one of those deals. If someone's stealing something, I ain't going to shoot the guy. I'll be a witness. That's what you do, and that's where I think people get themselves in trouble too, is you're not a cop. You're not law enforcement. You got a concealed carry permit. If your life's in jeopardy or someone around you, fine. Or someone's wielding a knife around, getting ready to hack people apart. But if they're standing in the parking lot, even with a knife, you just can't shoot them. They have to make an overt action. Mm-hmm. The best thing is you call 911, you wait, and you be a good witness. That's what you're taught. And that's, I mean,
and I think, and that's what kind of scares me about concealed weapons is just the lack of training people have with it. I mean, I think, and, my only thing is I think you should have to go through some kind of safety course every year that you have one, just like a driver's license. You don't have to do that, but you have to go get a license reissued every 5 years or whatever it is. But I think that you should have to go back to some kind of course if you're going to be concealed carry, but I don't think that's the law.
And see, I'm torn on that too. I'm a little torn on that because I've kind of gone from both sides of the fence on this. At one point in my life, I felt that I didn't feel most citizens really needed a firearm in some sense, and I'm talking like they didn't need an M4, what's the average? And then I kind of came full circle, no, but we do have, Second Amendment rights. We do have the right to bear arms. And it's a tough one. It's because you can't infringe upon the rights of the many because of the few stupid. And that's what we try and do. And that's where this debate gets really, really tricky. And I agree with you. And not only that, but it would probably make a good boom in the communities and in businesses that if you had to go qualify once a year, but the problem is now, here's the problem. Shooting ranges are very hard to put in now because of environmental impact laws. No one wants to put them in anymore. It's expensive, and the towns and people in certain areas, I won't mention them, fight them tooth and nail. So now say you put in a requirement that you have to go qualify once a year, but you've got nowhere to go. Then what is the qualifying agency? Then you have to put in something that is a standard qualification that you have to pass. Now you got another bureaucracy. You know, I don't know what the answer is. I agree with you. I'm a little different though. I'm a little biased because I've been around weapons all my life. I have my own firing range. I shoot a lot, not as much as some people, but more than most people out there. My attitude is, why the hell do I have to go qualify? You know, I spent 20 years in the military and law enforcement. I've been around guns. I've been in 100 safety course for 30 plus. Why would I have to go through it? But that's me being a jerk because technically I agree. I should have to go like everyone else, have to go through it. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is on that one. Then you get politicians involved and it's a goat rope.
Yeah, well, once you get the politicians involved, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we could always ask Comey. I mean, I'm sure he'll come out and – no, I'm joking.
I'm sure he's getting ready to come out and say a lot of things that people didn't think he was going to say.
That guy. Ooh,
I think some honesty is going to come out of him in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I'm not a Comey fan by any stretch, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a Trump fan either. But Comey is what we used to call an empty suit in the government. Comey's an idiot. I'll just put it right out there. I mean, the guy was supposedly, a USA, and then I believe he was the USA of New York, right? Wasn't he the United States Attorney of? Was it New York or? I know he worked with what?
I don't remember if it was D.C. or New York.
I can't remember either. But anyone knows in law enforcement, you don't go out and tell everyone you have an active investigation. That is like rule 101. Your typical canned answer is, I can neither confirm or deny that we have an active investigation against individual A, company B, whatever. That is the media training I got and every agent gets. And you're talking the head of the FBI is such a dipshit that he can't figure that one out. I mean, when I heard him do that, I went, what is he doing? What is this guy doing? And then he laid out a whole case against Hillary Clinton and says, we decided not to prosecute. Hold on a second.
You just laid out the case.
Well, no. I went, you used to be an attorney. You're not an attorney anymore, buddy. You don't prosecute anyone. Attorneys and the Department of Justice attorney and the AUSAs and all the district, those are the people who prosecute people. I never prosecuted one person ever. I was an investigator. I put together evidence. I presented it to in my case, the AUSA or supervisory AUSA, and they decided whether they were going to prosecute the case. Comey doesn't decide that at all. And that's what I mean. For a guy who was in law enforcement, Comey came off like a complete idiot. I mean, I went, this guy, and that's why, I'll be honest with you, why I used to get so frustrated in the government. Those are the guys I had to work for. That dipshit didn't have a clue what he was doing. He's in charge of a huge agency, and he's just, it's frustrating. And I could imagine, I would wonder what's really going on inside the FBI right now. I'd be curious. And people have to realize the FBI is the most bureaucratic federal agency there is. Hands down. Hands down. On the law enforcement side. Yeah, we don't have tangent there. I know.
That's right.
You spun me up. You spun me up on that one because that one.
I figured that one would get you. We talked about that the other day. And because, I mean, as far as looking at things that, it's nice to have you because when I'm looking at this political stuff, I'm trying to figure it all out myself. But then when you can come in and fill in the blanks on what these guys are like in the upper echelons of these organizations, and it's exactly the same stories that I've heard you tell me for 15 years. Just when you were active, you would tell me these stories about how these guys just, they played that political string and that's all they cared about. Their win with the flag. Whatever direction the flag was blowing that day was the direction they were going to go.
Well, and the sad part about it is all the people who get to that kind of position, they didn't get it by doing the job. And I shouldn't say it because Comey, from what I understand as a prosecutor, he was actually a pretty good one back in the day, from what I understand. But I didn't work with him. I should ask some friends who may have been in the district he is if had any contact with him. But the climbers climb politics. They don't climb by doing the job. We used to have two sayings: shit floats to the top, and you have to be a fuck up to move up.
Yeah. So
those were our sayings. I mean, they're pretty harsh, but you get up to that position, it's not because you were usually a great prosecutor or field agent. Mm-hmm. You were a politician. You were stabbing people in the back all the way up the ladder.
Well, exactly. And what gets me, especially, I was kind of looking at his bio right here. I mean, he was an attorney general, so he never served on the ground, I guess, as an FBI agent.
No. He was an attorney.
So he has no idea what's it's like in the field anyway, and what the investigators do. He just knows what to do with that evidence.
Well, and that's very common in the government, in the federal government. I can't speak to state because I didn't work I worked in county level when I was younger, but at federal level, what happens is they tend to put people in positions because of the politics instead of experience. So you tend to end up with people at the head, and we're talking about that, like the intelligence committees in Congress. You go through all the people who belong to like the main intelligence committee, and then there's all the subcommittees and all this crap. If you go through all the people who are in charge of all these committees and are the heads, they have zero experience in that field at all. And they're the ones making those decisions. That is scary. I mean, that is really, really scary. And the reason it's just that my attitude is, if you're going to be the Secretary of Defense, your ass better have been former military. You know what I mean? It's just common sense.
I mean, it seems like that's more and more rare. All these.
Yeah.
I mean, if you took Trump's appointees and you see what experience they have in those departments, they have none.
Well, think of what again, I'm sure I piss off a bunch of people along the way. But Obama had zero experience in anything.
Oh, and I'm not saying that he wasn't innocent of
that. But
he's
not alone. It's been going on for, I've said it since basically Clinton till now. These last four presidents couldn't pass the background check I had to pass. Not all four of these presidents would have been DQ'd on their backgrounds. Every last one of them. It just blows me away. We're letting people rule the country who couldn't get through a background check. I mean, obviously Bush Sr., he could have, obviously he could have, but you get to his son, Junior, as I like to call him, and then Clinton, all the crap that guy had and dirty laundry he had. And then you had Obama, God, he associated with known terrorists, for God's sakes. And then you got Trump, who's done just about everything, I'd imagine. You don't become a real estate tycoon in New York by playing with friendly people. I'm sure there was quite a few laws broken over the years and a lot of money changing hands. And these people are getting in and running our country. I mean, what can you say? At least they don't have concealed carry permits, right?
I'm sure that'll be it.
You see how I full circled that one? You see how I went all the way around on that one? But James, I know we got off topic here. I'm sorry. And we do on your show too. I've done it. I do it there. I'm horrible at that. What would you say as in the prepper survivalist world? We lost your audio.
Did we lose his audio?
Yeah, I'm not hearing him.
I'm not either. Well,
and James is using his iPhone or his phone, so his computer died right before we were getting on, and I think he may have just.
The audio might have died. How long have we been doing this? How long have we been doing this episode?
I don't know. You're recording it.
Well, I think we're around an hour anyway. So instead of just having weird talk.
Are you there? Are you there, James? Oh,
we lost him. All right. Well, that's a good time to end this episode then. Thank James for coming on. And make sure you go to his website, James, or survivalpunk.com. And his podcast. It's a good podcast. It's the direction that he goes with some of his podcasts are not what you would think they would go to on a survivalist podcast, and they're pretty awesome.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, it's definitely worth a listen. And James, can you got volume at all? Let's try one more time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now we can hear you. I was gonna say, give your top 5, firearms rules or steps for the beginner. What would you recommend?
We covered the rules pretty good, but I would say try to find a mentor and take a class. Really, like I don't feel that anyone can go wrong just getting a Glock 19 as their handgun carry. But I would say probably for your first gun purchase, you really can't go wrong with a shotgun. I mean, that you can hunt and you can defend your home with a shotgun. Like you said earlier, you can pick up one for a really good price.
Oh yeah, $275, $300.
Yeah, if you go to a pawn shop, you can get one $150. So it's not bad. If you get a handgun starting out, that's $500-$600 for a good one. I think I paid $500, $400, somewhere in that range for my Glock 19, and it was used. Never had a jam in it, so it's a good one.
Well, and then you got to get holster, you got to get ammo. You got to get a trigger lock. I mean, there's a lot to it. So you'll end up spending close to $1,000 in the end once you get everything.
Yeah, and do not buy a cheap piece of crap holster. That's like, if you're like me and every other gun owner ever, you probably have a drawer or closet full of holsters, and you're like, piece of shit, and like you keep getting, just buy a good one. Buy like $60 to $100 for a holster.
Actually, I'm going to give a promo right here. I've been buying the same brand of holster for over 20 years now. It's called Kramer Leather. They're out of Washington. Back in the day, he used to handcraft. It's Greg Kramer. I became good friends with him and his daughter too. She used to take orders back in the day. All of us ordered all of our holsters are made out of horsehide, and you can get I always get the scabbard where it's open face, so it doesn't have a thumb snap. It's just open. Yeah. It's basically a pressure holster.
Yeah. And
it's horsehide. The great thing about horsehide is it doesn't break down. So I have holsters to this day. Where's my gun? Hold on.
You're just talking about losing guns. Look at that. He didn't even know where his is.
That they don't break down. So you can see this holster is probably 15 years old, and it's solid. I mean, and it's super light. I really like it. You can see how small this is, a Glock 40 compact, and it's a great holster. I can't say they're going to cost you. I think I get discount. I think I pay about $130 for them, but it's the last holster you ever buy. And as in our crowd, we're all big believers in that. And all of that, but Greg Kramer's a good dude. He's started these in his garage, and special forces, we all had them. I mean, everyone I got worked with, all special forces guys we were working with, we all had them. And that's how good they are. And we all still have them to this day. We still use them as our carry.
Yeah, go check them out. It's kramerleather.com.
And get their belts. Hey, that's what I'd recommend. Do you have a good gun belt, James?
I've got the SOE Tactical Cobra belt. So
okay.
Yeah. I can't recommend those guys highly enough.
And that good belt's really important.
Yeah. I mean, you want to see, like, you can go on YouTube and watch a video. There's a video of 2 trucks trying to break the SOE Tactical belt apart, and they're just spitting tires and popping wheelies. And I mean,
how much are those?
About $60.
Oh, that's cheap. Mine was $200, but mine's horsehide again.
Yeah, this is nylon, and it's worth it. I'm on my second one, but only because the Cobra Riggers belts, they're good for going up a few sizes, but really, like, they won't go down a few sizes. So if you lose weight,
Yep, that's how the nylons always are. They're size specific. You have to get small, medium, large, or and that's why I could never get them. Usually use those. I actually had. That's what I like about Kramer Leather. They make them custom for you.
Yeah.
So they'll make it to whatever size you want. And I'm a skinny little pinhead, so I have to get the little girl belt usually, and that's nice about it too. And you can change the holes on it. Actually, I'm going to grab it. I want to show.
So where do you get the belt that you have? Where do you
SOEtactical.com, I think. That should be their website. You can find them everywhere.
Yeah, I've had this probably, it's a long time, but it's still pretty stiff. I mean, that's easily 10, 12 years. So it's still pretty stiff belt. The nylon belts hold up really well too. And they're more comfortable. What I like about the nylon belts is they're more comfortable, because I have a nylon one too. I can't find it. I have one.
That's mine.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah,
and
I mean, look at that.
Those are nice. Those are really nice.
And so I mean, they're all custom, so they'll do any size you need. They can customize. I mean, the thread. If I was like, I want red on black because that's my colors. And
that's cool. Oh, that's really cool.
And this is a couple years old.
And that's the thing too, is if you're going to go buy a gun, don't go cheap on the gear. The gear is incredibly important too. A good holster, like you said, it's a comfort. Not only that conceal, but it's also, that holster can save your life. You want to make sure, they can't get the gun out of there. It's a good retention holster. And even though this thing looks it looks pretty, like you just pull out, you have to pull the gun literally straight out. And obviously I've taken a bunch of classes and been around, I know how to protect. I would not recommend a scabbard open end top holster for a beginner. Get a snap, get a thumb break on it. And they'll do that for these. Actually, they'll custom make this scabbard with a thumb break on it. My friend did that because the agency wouldn't allow him to have it. But there's a ton of good gear out there. I like Safari Land, makes good stuff.
I'm a fan of the crossbreed holsters. It's Kydex for the outside, and then on the back, it's horse leather, like you said, which feels really good. Like the horse leather just feels really good.
Yeah, it's hard to explain how horse leather. It's just a different feel to it. I can't explain it.
Do I have mine reachable?
See what happens? You start getting us involved. And I got another gun just right over there. I'm looking, there's another one.
You can listen to this you might want to go to our YouTube channel and catch the end of this and to watch them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Taking around for
weapons. And then I got knives.
Oh my God.
And they're all within reach.
I was like, we want to.
Well, keep in mind, James lives in a tiny home. Gary lives in a little bitty travel trailer, and they are armed to the teeth. So you don't want to go robbing a travel trailer.
Oh, it's just funny.
I can't find my holster, but I could lean over and grab all of my guns right now. So.
Well, and people look at that, and there's, some people panic and go, oh my God, these people need to be arrested. And, whatever. It's just, the gun is basically a static piece of metal and plastic. It's the dipshit behind it that turns it in. It's just like a car. It's a tool. A car is more dangerous than a gun. That argument can be made. Actually, hey, I could say this. Heroin and opiates are more dangerous than guns. So, how about that?
Prescription pills from the doctor's office are more dangerous.
Oxycodone kills far more people every year than guns do.
Yeah.
And
so there are a lot of things that kill more people. Stairs, hammers, anesthesia, I think kills more people. It's a lot of, it's everything pretty much.
Yeah. And I think Joe Rogan says it the best. He said, we don't have a gun problem in this country. We have a mental health problem, because it's not it's for the most part, not your stable person that's doing the shooting. It's an unstable individual.
Oh yeah. And usually if it's and that's where hunters and people like the survivalist community preppers get mixed in this bunch of nut bags. And I'm all, wait. Hold on a second. I went, don't be mixing us in with the nut bags.
No.
And hunting, anyone who's been around a real hunter, a good hunter, and don't get me wrong, there's some they'll go drink a 12-pack and go blasting away. But we take everything seriously. That's what I mean. I know guns kill. I'm a hunter too. I shoot things. I eat them. I know that's what happens. I know the end result. And I think that's what happens too, is we get lumped in with the crazy people who go out there and just start shooting everyone up. And I don't think their mental capacity to understand even what they're doing. And somehow we get lumped in with all those guys. I'm like, come on now.
I don't like to go down conspiracy road. But did you guys look into the Aurora, Colorado shooting? Like, that got so conspiracy. If you dug into it, I'm like, I got it. Like, that kid, the James, whatever his name was, that shot up that Batman movie theater, his college mentor and professor worked at a CIA Colorado laboratory that did studies on Manchurian candidates. And it's like, he kind of fit that profile a little bit. And it was like, I'm just going to stop reading right there. I'm done. Who knows? But you could spend like a good afternoon just digging into that and being like, yeah, there's some compelling evidence there.
Well, anytime there's like a mass shooting or something like that, it's not a normal person doing that. I mean, it's just not. No. And everyone says the answer is, well, if we didn't have access to guns, well, that would solve it. And I go, I hate to break it to you, but there's so many millions and millions and millions of illegal guns. And a guy who had to work in it, trust me, all the criminals aren't giving up their guns. We give up ours, and they're going to go get more, is what they're going to do. And then you take, and if we had a magic, wand and could get rid of all guns today, within 20 minutes, someone would be bashing their neighbor over the head with a shovel or crushing their head and chopping up with an axe. I guarantee it. Have you ever heard of people getting killed with screwdrivers? That used to be a very lethal instrument back in the day. People used to get stabbed each other with screwdrivers because they could carry them in the back pocket. The thugs knew that they could carry a screwdriver and no one would stop them. But a screwdriver is just as deadly as a knife, especially when you sharpen the end of that thing up. It works pretty much the same way for a puncture wound. Yeah.
Yeah. The knife deaths go up. Like there's like a gang in China that go around to like schools slashing up kids, like, because they don't have guns, but they can get knives. And that's, knives are the big problem in England right now because they can't get rid of those like they did the guns.
Well, what is that? Every a state or county in the U.S. that has the most strict gun laws has the highest murder rates.
Oh yeah. I saw something recently that was like the 5 strictest gun counties account for like 60% of all the gun murders in the U.S. Something like that. I may be skewing the statistics, but like,
I mean, could you
Illinois,
imagine
California
going to live somewhere where you have no access to firearms and you're in a high crime area? No way. That ain't gonna happen. No. And that's why, honestly, why I can't. California, I can't even get a concealed permit there. It's that hard to get. It's a pain in the butt. They make you jump through a bunch of hoops. It's super expensive. And I've tried because I split time, and they're all, you don't live here. And I go, yeah, but I already have one. I'm former law enforcement. I spent most of my time here. They're all, suck it up, buddy. Have fun. Yeah. And I'm all, well, thanks. That's a great way to look at it. But it's simple. You're never going to get rid of the human element of violence. I don't know what it is in us. I don't know what it is. We're the only animal that truly preys upon each other. It's something that it's unexplainable. It's bigger than the universe. We don't know why we do that. We have no idea. We're violent beings. I wish it was different. Getting rid of guns isn't going to change that. That's my final plug on that.
All right. Well, let's wrap this puppy up. So, you guys got anything else before we say goodbye for the afternoon?
No.
I'm good.
All right. Well, James, thanks for coming on again. And I guess we'll talk to you guys next week.